Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21 Hats podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Feldman. This week, Laura Zander tells Mel Gravely and Jennifer Kerhin how she and her husband, Doug, managed to sell their business for precisely the price they wanted. As you may recall, Laura and Doug started Jimmy Bean's Wool more than 2 decades ago as a tiny corner store, and then turned it into one of the biggest brands in the yarn industry. Years ago, the couple decided they'd be open to selling, but only if the offer was right. With that goal in mind, they made a deliberate effort to get the business sale ready and to keep it that way. And as Laura ran the company, she started cultivating relationships with anyone she thought might one day be a buyer. In fact, she tells us, she was never shy about saying, "Oh, hey Bob, it's really nice to meet you. Do you want to buy my business?" Eventually, someone said yes. Although getting to a signed contract, Laura says, nearly broke her. Plus, Jennifer thought she had her hands full running her business, and then her own home went up in flames. Even in good times, owning and running a business can be a lonely pursuit. Our hope is that these weekly conversations will let owners know they are not alone in facing challenges. In fact, that's the whole idea behind the 21 Hats community, engaging with other owners to get the kinds of insights only another owner can offer. If you're interested in learning more, you can sign up for a free trial of the Morning Report newsletter, which highlights the most important news of the day for business owners and shows how other owners are confronting challenges and seizing opportunities. Just search the 21 Hats Morning Report to subscribe. And if you like the idea of helping out another business owner, on Tuesday, August 19th at 3 Eastern Time, we're going to hold another 21 Hats Brainstorm, where we gather virtually, one owner presents a challenge, and we all try to offer support and suggestions, and then we turn it into a podcast. If you're interested, let me know by replying to your morning report or by shooting me an email at lauren@21hats.com. I'll send you all of the information. Joining me this week on the podcast are regulars Mel Gravely, who is chairman of Triversity Construction, a construction firm based in Cincinnati, Jennifer Kerhin, CEO of SB Expos and Events, an events management business based near Baltimore, and Laura Zander, who until recently was CEO of Jimmy Bean's Wool, a digital yarn store based in Reno, Nevada. The episode is titled, Laura Zander Named Her Exit Price and Got It. Welcome, Mel, Jennifer, and Laura. It's great to have you all here, and we have a lot to talk about. First, Laura, you have been busy. We haven't seen you in quite a while, and that's because you have some big news to share. Want to tell us what it is?
Yeah, we migrated our website to Shopify back in December.
That's not what I had in mind, Laura.
Oh, well, that was big news.
I'm sure that was a big deal, too.
It was. We did that at the same time as we were in a transaction to sell our business, which finalized in April. So we sold our business and signed away everything on April 4th.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Are you happy?
Yeah, how's that feel?
Well, have I ever been happy? I mean, that's a really deep question. Am I glad that we did it? 1000%. Do I have any regrets? I mean, sure. There are things that I learned that I could have done better during the transaction. But
we want to hear about those.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, they're just things that you don't know until you know,
Sure.
Things that you haven't figured out. I guess that's why as we get older, we get so much wiser. Some of us. But no, I don't regret it at all. It was the best thing we could have done. 1,000 billion trillion. I mean, just absolutely no regrets. It was the hardest thing, the most emotionally, mentally, physically taxing roller coaster ride it was like doing an ultra marathon on a roller coaster while you have malaria or something. I mean, it was just awful, so awful. I mean, so many times I thought I was going to break, it was Rocky 1 for sure. But we made it through.
That's quite a description. We're going to ask you about that. Did you celebrate afterwards? What did you do?
It's so funny that you would ask that. What a great segue, Lauren. What I was going to say is what's so interesting is that one would think that on the day that you sell the business, you like this great weight is lifted off of your shoulders and you feel so much better and everything is just, the sun is shining. It's not like that. It's so intense. I mean, it probably was another 60 days. So we are just now that we're about 100 days in, 120 days in, we are just now coming out of the unbelievably ridiculous amount of stress and work that is required. Now, part of that is because I stayed on. The parent business, we completely restructured. I'm an overachiever. So of course, like I want to stay on. I want to be helpful and useful. So I'm doing multiple jobs. But Doug still, every single day he spends hours and hours. We're still spending hours and hours every day tying up all of the loose ends. Every state that you've paid sales tax to, every state that you've had an employee. So you've got like the Department of Revenue, all the reconciliation, blah, 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 blah. So no, we didn't celebrate. We're too tired. So we will probably celebrate realistically, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic or a downer, but I'm guessing January or February is when it might start to hit, but it may not be until April or May of next year once we get through the taxes of 2025 and pulling together all of that paperwork, and all the complexity that comes along with it. There's just so much. Like I had no idea.
I'm wondering, will the listeners know about the business? Will they know what the business was and all that, Lauren?
Laura has been on from the beginning, so many of our listeners will know about her business. But it's a really good question. And let me just say, I've known Laura for a long time. It's worth pointing out, this is a business, Jimmy Bean's Wool, that you started from scratch with your husband, Doug, like 22 years ago?
Yeah.
Is that right?
23.
You started as a neighborhood store where you sold yarn and coffee.
Correct.
And you were both refugees from the dot-com bubble. You had been developers in San Francisco before the bubble burst. You started this neighborhood yarn store, and then you took it online, and you built an amazing business in 22 years through both acquisition and organic growth. Can you tell us how big the business got by the time you sold it?
Yeah. I was always open with that before, but I think, at the end, we were doing 13, 14 million in sales, had about 70 employees. And like you said, over the last 7 years, really, is when we started to grow through acquisition, as you mentioned. Mel, we stayed debt free. That was something that was really important to us. We had a brick and mortar here in Reno and a warehouse distribution center. We had a building that we bought ourselves a couple years ago here in Reno. And then we purchased a business in Fort Worth, Texas, almost 6 years ago. So I was spending about half of my time, or a third, depending on the season, a third of my time down in Texas. And that was a factory. So it was a manufacturing facility, 30,000 square feet. We dyed yarn there, and then we slowly turned that into a distribution center for B2B. So we had started B2C and then ended with half of our revenue being B2B. So in the last 5 years, we had almost doubled our business. So it really put my foot on the gas then. And I think, you read the books that are build to sell. Selling the business has always been on my mind. For the last 15 years, this wasn't something new. Ever since I met Lauren, our approach was you'll end up with the healthiest business, or we thought we would end up with a healthier business if we approached it as if we were going to sell it any day now, because then that drove us to having really good financials, and it drove us to having systems that could be, replicated or picked up or folded under. And, even the portfolio of businesses that we acquired, there was some strategy in that and trying to fill the gaps. And does this look attractive to somebody else?
Laura, can you tell us a little about that story? Tell us, were you actively going out and trying to find buyers, or did the buyers come to you? Walk us through that story a little bit.
No, but no, I was not actively going out, trying to find buyers. But for the last 10-ish years, if I met somebody that either had the money or I knew somebody who had the money or I thought it could be a good strategic fit, I mean, I was never shy with, oh, hey, Bob, it's really nice to meet you. Do you want to buy my business? Literally. And Lauren knows me. I mean, he knows that I'm not exaggerating.
How many times do people say yes?
A couple. A couple we should talk about it. I mean, there were a couple where we, got a little teeny bit farther down the road. A lot of times, even let's say 10 years ago, I'd say I'm not, and even in this case, we're not worth what we want to be worth, but I want to put myself on your radar so that when we are worth it, or when you are ready to buy something or, add something to your portfolio, you think of me. So it was never a short-term, play. It was always a, hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm here. Like, don't forget about me. And I just figured when the time was right, the time would be right. So, yeah, I mean, the company that ended up buying us, we've been on their radar for years, years and years, and they've been on our radar for years and years. But I was polygamous that way, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word. But
You Western people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you have a valuation? Did you know the number you wanted?
Yeah.
Before you talked to them?
Yeah, but I've known for years. I mean, that's, I've actively thought about, every year I value us, I mean, I know what I'm driving towards. I know what EBITDA I want, I know what percentage we want for this and that. And I know, just kind of intuitively, I guess, like where synergies would be found. So if I'm thinking about this company, before I say, hey, do you want to buy me? I mean, I've got some kind of like thought behind why it would work and why it would be a good fit for somebody, and where we could add value. So I didn't go get a formal valuation. I didn't need to. I've been looking at this long enough that I knew.
Why do you say that, Laura? Why didn't you need a valuation? And the buyer didn't want a valuation?
Because we said if we are not looking to sell it right this second, if you would like to buy us, this is how much we need. And they could take it or leave it. And that's where we ended up.
Did you end up at that number or did?
Yeah, we did.
I heard one CEO say to me, I'll offer you any amount of money you want for your business as long as I can dictate the terms.
No.
How were your terms?
Well, I don't know what to compare it to. I mean, ask me in 10 years, ask me in 2 years. So right now they're fine. But if we get sued in a year or 2 years or something comes up, I mean, that was something that I was completely unprepared for because all the acquisitions we've done have been small family run companies. We're a small family run company. It's all boilerplate. And this, you're with the big dogs. And so their indemnifications and their like just all of the negotiating terms were extremely detailed. If after we sell the business, somebody comes in and they sit in that chair and the chair breaks and they fall down and they break their pelvis, who's liable? Is it the buyer who now owns the business, or is it me because I didn't disclose that chair was past its like lifespan and should have been replaced? So you have to think through, or at least we did, pretty much like every class of scenario of something like that happening.
Laura, did you want to stay on?
I could have gone either way. I'm like, if you find me useful and you think it would be helpful for me to stay on, then I'm happy to stay on. If you don't want me to stay on and you think it would be cleaner and the business would be more successful because, as the founder, I stepped away, then I'm happy to step away. We're still kind of in that phase, right? It's been 3 or 4 months. we did end up, I took a role as an employee. I'm in the C-suite. There are three of us. And at this point, like, I think I'm being useful, and I think that the business is benefiting, from my experience. And I am learning a ton from these other two women who, went to business school and like they know what they're doing. So for me, while it was unbelievably, incredibly stressful for the first couple months, it's starting to like level out. And I'm getting to the point where I'm getting to start to read business books again. I'm getting to start to think about things at a slightly more strategic and higher level than I have in a long time. And that's super, super exciting.
I think the other term that Jennifer might have been referring to is whether or not there's an earnout. Did you get your price all now, or is there a period of time before you get the rest of the deal?
We structured the deal so that if everything in the world collapsed tomorrow, if there's some crazy thing like a pandemic, and the economy completely collapsed, we were happy. So yeah, we got the deal that we were looking for. So, we were very lucky that way, and they were very honorable that way. And we were lucky in that we're like, look, again, we don't have to sell. I know the business isn't as big and isn't where I want it to be someday. That said, I'd been shooting for a certain value. I wanted our business to get to a certain value, and we weren't there yet. So I was willing to take what it was valued at the time.
Laura, how long were the phases, right? The phase where you're negotiating, and then you agree on something, and then the phase of all the documentation. Like, can you walk us through that timeline?
Sure. We like semi-formally signed, a non-disclosure, I think in maybe October or so. And then I think it was Thanksgiving.
Wait, October of 2024?
Yeah.
Right? Not that long ago? Oh, that doesn't seem that long. I thought you were going to tell me a year and a half ago. Okay. All right.
Well, that's a long time.
Is it now? I have no idea. I don't know.
It's because it's brutal. You just described it's brutal. The due diligence and the back and forth negotiations.
Yeah. The process took 5 months. Like from the time we like put it down on paper that yes, we were interested in formally moving forward. The dating process, if you want to call it that. We had been chatting casually and flirting a little bit, I guess, for about 6 months. But I was also, polygamous, and I was also in
dating others. Yes. Dating others.
I was also in other conversations, just coincidentally at the same time, and had gone down the path with some others. But from the time, we started the due diligence around Thanksgiving. I remember that because that was our Thanksgiving, were the 155 items that were on the due diligence list. And then we originally had planned to close the deal in January. But to your point, the negotiations back and forth and just, the communication of their lawyer and our lawyer. And, then me and the CEO would chat, about some stuff. And then some of the stuff would go back and forth. Yeah, just all the paperwork just ended up taking. And then with the election, so not only did we do this over the holidays and a Shopify migration, so a complete platform migration that we had worked 11 months on. So we changed our entire platform that we've had for 20 some years.
That your husband built.
That my husband built. So he's driving that. Election, Christmas, or I shouldn't say election, but inauguration, but election and post-election. And then Doug's parents, his dad is not doing well and, has got Alzheimer's now and blah, blah, blah. It was just brutal, brutal, brutal. But that took, it ended up taking 3 months. So I actually signed the paperwork. At the end of the day, on a Friday when I was in Vietnam for business, the Friday that I got to Vietnam, we got word that the paperwork could all be signed and the deal could be done by the following Friday, but we were going to have to push it. to get just all the last stuff, all these last schedules, so it's document every single, all of your assets, document all the computers, it's just all the paperwork. So we signed it and the deal closed when I was in Vietnam, in North Vietnam, in the hills, trying to source some like really unique fabric and filming a documentary thing. It was exhausting. Just exhausting.
Though there's so many things, Lauren, that I would tease out of this that just are so unusual. Just to begin with, the intentionality on building it to sell it is rare. The patience to keep building the value of it so that it gets to a place where it is more valuable to someone to buy, which means keeping your books clean and all of that.
Mm-hmm. I
mean, there's just so much that goes into prior to dating and flirting and then finding a proper mate. I hear people say they want to sell their business and they decide it today and they think it's ready to sell tomorrow. And the truth is most of them they just aren't ready for that.
No, I mean, you got to go to the gym for a while, to
get bikini ready. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you just do. And again, at least my thought process was, and I think it was like the E-Myth or something that I read like 15 years ago. That was like, I think his was like, build your business as if you're going to franchise it, in terms of like systems and processes and everything else. And mine was, and then there was a book, Build to Sell or something, but it was, this is just best practices, even if we keep the business for the rest of our lives. And we always had that open, I mean, again, we didn't need to sell. We weren't actively looking to sell it, but I always wanted, I wanted my legs to look good if the right person came along. I wanted to be attractive.
Laura, did your employees know you were going to the gym or flirting around?
Some of my leaders, I've always been open about that. And I had been open about Doug and I will not have this forever. So whether we do an ESOP, whether, we don't know what it's going to look like, but we're not Jay. I'm not going to do this until I'm 65.
When did they find out that you sold it? The day that the money was in your bank, or
no?
beforehand?
And that is what created a bit of the complication, is because I did already have this trip to Vietnam and we had this like film crew going and everything. I mean, it was something that I couldn't get out of. It wouldn't have been right for me to get out of it. So when the date came around that we were going to close on the 4th and I was going to be in Vietnam, it added a layer of complication in that we had to do a lease back, because we didn't want to tell all of our employees while I'm in Vietnam, right? And my general manager of the Reno location was in Vietnam with me. And she's the one who that everybody works for on the Nevada side. So what I did is for the month before we closed, I spent time with each of our leaders. So I flew to Texas and I told our general manager down there, hey, there's a 95% chance this is going to happen. And then, I sat down with our leader in Reno. So I gave them a few weeks to process and to think about it and, for me to be around for us to talk about it and stuff. But then what we did is after the 4th, I was still in Vietnam. And we spent a week and they leased back the employees from us so that we didn't have to tell our employees for a week. And so everybody still got their paychecks from us. I mean, it was effectively invisible, right? And that just created a ton of complication, and in all kinds of different ways, like who's liable if somebody slips and falls, who's liable if, there's a discrimination claim or, whatever. Who's paying the health insurance, who's paying this, who's paying that, who pays workers' comp. So figuring, paying the lawyers to figure all that stuff out. But we ended up telling our teams, I want to say it was on the 8th or the 9th or 10th, about a week later.
Laura, we should say who bought your company. If I'm not mistaken, it's a larger company in your industry, so it was a strategic buy for them. Is that right?
It was. Yeah, it was a strategic buy. It's called Local Crafts Group, and they own a number of other formerly family-owned craft brands. in the industry, and I had seen what they had done with some of the ones that they had purchased over the last few years, and they had done a really phenomenal job. And so that's again, Doug and I were like, should we just wait and try to build the business more because there was so much growth to be had? Or are we ever going to find somebody that's going to be a better fit? And we just didn't think there'd be a better fit. We didn't think there was somebody, like a group of people that could do a better job with our businesses and kind of activate or execute on all the things that all the dreams that we had than these guys. So, yeah. So I am now the Chief Brand Officer of the Local Crafts Group.
Are you excited about being the Chief Brand Officer and being part of this mission going forward, or are you hoping to do something else fairly soon?
I mean, because we just went through this, I am coming out of the exhaustion. And it hasn't been fair for me to judge because I've been doing my old job, parts of my old job in addition to doing the new job. So I don't have a super clear vision of what this new job is going to look like. That said, it is becoming more and more clear every day. And I just think there's so much we could be done. I mean, or so much to do. Like we finally have an opportunity. I finally have an opportunity to have all the resources and the expertise and just the backing to do all these things that we've always wanted to do.
Is it different thinking that you won't be the owner?
Oh, I love it. That's the best part.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, Laura. I think early on in this podcast, we did an episode where you expressed the thought that there are times when you just get tired of having to make every decision.
Yes.
And you wish somebody would just tell you what to do.
1,000%.
Amen to that.
And somebody else would just pay the bills.
And is this what that is?
Yes, it is so nice. Like every day. I told our CEO, I'm like, what got me through these first couple months, really? I mean, again, because it's so intense. I don't think there's any way around it, but it's just, I woke up for a month and I'm like, oh my God, I could quit my job today. I have not felt that feeling in 22 or 23 years. Like for 23 years, you can't quit your job. Like you can close it down, but there's all this paperwork. There are all these things you got to do. I mean, as we're learning right now, but I haven't had the freedom to just walk away in decades. And that freedom, ironically, really, really motivated me. And is still very, very motivating. Like it's so nice to know. And it's so I feel so much more balanced. God, Lauren, now I wake up in the morning. I read a little bit. I do yoga. I go for a run for an hour or two. And then I come back and I start work at 9:00. I work late, and there are days that I'll put in 12 or 14, but I have figured out this is a job. I haven't had a job. I don't have to be here. I am here because I want to be here. I want to learn. I want to, push, whatever. I want to make things happen. I want to make this better. I want to see what impact we can have. And I want to see this work. I'm really excited to have this experience and work in a much, much, much bigger company. And just level up and see if I can do it. I don't know if I can fight at this weight class.
Laura, is your husband with the new company? How did that relationship, your marriage, go through this process?
He is not. He's still consulting, so he's still doing a lot because he was a software engineer. And so he's still helping migrate some of the data. Yeah, he just, he really wanted to retire. He was done, just done. So as far as how our marriage made it through, how do you make it through anything after 25, 28 years? You just do.
I'm curious of what what your team looked like when you were going through this, because it sounded like you were involved in a lot of the detail gathering yourself, all the due diligence. I'm sure they had a data room and all that kind of stuff you had to put crap into.
Yes.
Was there anybody internal that could help you there, or
no?
Okay, so you were doing the data gathering, the HR stuff, and the financials, and oh boy.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Yeah, you should teach a class. People who want to sell it's just funny. Then they get in it, and the buyer has all these questions, and everything you give them, they've got 3 more questions about everything you gave them, right? Because they looked at it, right?
Yeah.
And so every one document turns into 3 requests, and the data mining just goes on and on. If you're pulling that stuff yourself, oh my Lord, I get it. I totally get it.
Well, and I don't know if this is right or wrong. One, nobody's going to know the data better than I do, or Doug. And 2, nobody has the same skin in the game to present the data. So I don't know that I would want anybody else, because I really want to make sure that obviously I'm going to give them the correct data, and accurate data, but I also, I'm not dumb. I want to make sure that it's telling the story that I want to tell. And again, I don't know. But this might be one of those cases where the best person to do it is us. But we're also very financially involved. We really know our financials. We really know, the information systems.
Laura, I think it's a fairly common thing in the course of a business sale, even when the owner isn't as fully involved in every detail as it sounds like you were, for the owner's attention to be so completely on the possible sale that it's easy to lose track of running the business, and the business suffers during that period. Was that an issue for you at all?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 1,000%. And that's something that we've talked about, and that was a source of tremendous anxiety. January, our numbers, one, we had just migrated to a new platform, so we lose all of our organic rankings. So site traffic, has gone way down on the e-commerce side of our business. I am not focused. I'm working on this transaction. Doug's working on the transaction. So I'm not focused on how do we compensate? How do we figure it out? And frankly, I don't have the energy. I don't have the energy to push, because I'm already pushing like as hard as I possibly can. And so when your numbers come back and they're not as good as they were, and then you're just like, oh my God, are they going to walk away because the numbers aren't as good as they are? And it was really harrowing, every little thing. Then I'm in Vietnam and the tariffs get announced, and I'm in Vietnam sourcing, and they're like, yep, 45% tariffs. And I'm like, well, the deal's going to get canceled. There were so many things that popped up that you're like, well, Joann's went through bankruptcy and closed, while we were going through this. Again, the new administration with some things in place that weren't favorable, to the business. So you just, every step of the way, you're like, well, there it goes. It's not going to happen. And then you got to try to dig out and repair all of the things that you've been neglecting, for the last couple months, because you just simply only have so much energy. Yeah, it was fun.
The longer it stays on the market, though, the longer the process is. Like you say, things happen because life just keeps happening, and we're in weird times now. But Joann's could have closed any time, and that can't be helpful to the conversation of what you're trying to do. So.
And Mel, you say long close. I wonder how long a typical closing is. I have no idea. And so, Laura, did you think this is an average time? Is this longer than normal? What's the average time to close a sale, a business?
Well, I would assume that it's based on the size and the complexity of the business. But under a year, even if I was just watching like Bob Iger's masterclass, right? And he talks a lot about the acquisitions that he's worked on. Obviously it depends on, are you on good terms, does the other side really want this to happen? And can you agree on some things? But I think 9 months, is pretty, maybe 9 months is the average. We did it in 5. We were trying to do it in 3 or 4, which maybe we didn't even do it in 5. Maybe we did it in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, like 4.5. So it was probably pretty quick.
Did you have a broker helping you?
No. No, we did not.
Interesting. How did you decide not to use a broker?
Because most of the smart people that I've talked to told me don't ever do that it's just a waste of money.
Did you have other advisors? Did you have a whole slew of tax advisors and lawyers and stuff? How many advisors do you think you had?
Probably not as much as we should. we found a lawyer, or our tax people did help us a little bit, but not a ton. We just sent them over the agreements. And the first step is, okay, if this is the price that we get, how much are we going to end up with? And are we okay with that? And then the second part was just, can you look at these agreements and see if there's anything in here, that is a red flag? And then we found a local lawyer. Doug's from the Midwest. He's a frugal dude. Our tax people had referred us to, a high-priced attorney in Atlanta who wanted a couple $100,000, to do the transaction. And then we found a nice local guy in Reno, and he wanted 30. So, and I'm like, yeah,
Wow.
For $800 an hour, I'll do some of the work,
I've seen that be all over the place on time-wise and level of help you get. The only thing I would say, people considering it, is I've learned this the hard way. You start with the tax implications. So there's certain ways to structure a deal. But the thing that's going to hurt you the most is considering how you do it to make it the most tax advantageous for you. Because people don't think about that, right? And so checking with your tax folks as you did probably helped a lot. At least you knew, here's what I'm going to end up with.
And at the end of the day, we didn't want to ever have to work again, right? Otherwise, why bother? Then I'm just going to have to go get another job. And, so we just had to do a lot of thinking. And my husband, he's such a nerd too, but he put together a whole Monte Carlo of like, if we get this, and then after taxes, we get this, and we live to, what's the standard deviation of, if we live to 92 versus 87 versus this, and he ran it 2,000 times between, looking at interest rates from 1929 or 1921 or whatever to 2024, and like, what are all the averages? So what's the probability that what we end up with is going to be enough for us to lead a comfortable life, not an extravagant life, but a comfortable life until we're in our late 80s, and once we were okay with that, then we're like, okay, but we didn't do anything until like that, because you got to have your bottom. For us, we had to have our bottom line, and we had to be able to say, look, we are not going below this. We're just not. And if that's not okay, then that's okay. But we can't.
Did that become a point of contention?
Not really. I'm sure there's some famous quote out there, but it's basically like, once you make a decision, then it's easy, because it's just like, it's just math. Like, this isn't emotional. It's not preferential. We're just telling you this is it.
Were you surprised by anything in the due diligence period? Did you learn anything about the business that you didn't know?
Yeah, we did. We found a couple things, and it was really helpful, and so me, the eternal like positive spin marketer, was like, Doug, even if this doesn't work, look at these great things that we've learned. Like, it's so worth the time that we learned, I don't want to go into details, but there were a couple things we should have been doing that we weren't doing, that we didn't know we were supposed to be doing. It was nothing that like affected anybody, day to day, but there was some paperwork that we should have been filing that we didn't know we were supposed to be filing. Just little stuff like that, buttoned up stuff. That was really helpful. And, again, in the spirit of, if this doesn't work, this process has taught me a ton about what I need to, what we need to do better for the next time. And that's, when we would have those moments where we're like, oh crap, this isn't going to go through. It's not going to work. And I'm like, look, this is just a dry run. And let's think about like how much we've just learned from this process. Like, it was cheaper to do this than to go to Harvard Business School. And we actually just got to experience it firsthand. And so let's set our files up so that the next time it's much easier to do, like, to supply all this due diligence stuff, because we have it, we basically know what somebody's going to ask for. Just little simple stuff like that.
How did your employees react when you did tell them?
My leadership team, they, were a little bit stunned. But over, talking about it a couple times, they were actually really pumped. I mean, I really positioned it and believed and do believe. I'm like, all of these things that we've wanted to do that we haven't had the resources and we haven't been able to do, we're getting help. I was just like, look, we're going to get help. Like, we're going to have a whole accounting department that can help us instead of it just being me. We're going to have a whole HR department. We're going to have a whole IT department instead of it just being Doug. So yes, it'll be an adjustment. But yeah, I mean, they were okay. Honestly, we only had a couple people who didn't make it through, who basically opted not to come along with us. And, I mean, I think out of our numbers, that was really great.
Did you have to make any tough staffing decisions as part of the sale?
I did. Yeah, we did. Yeah, as we consolidated things together and there was some redundancies. So the CEO and I spent a lot of time with our org charts, figuring out what the consolidated organization should look like. So, I mean, that's awful, super awful. But I mean, it is what it is.
Congratulations. I mean, You do sound exhausted. So it probably hasn't completely set in yet.
No, it hasn't.
You do sound that way, but it's, for all those CEOs who are not yet at that situation, it's an inspiration, right? I mean, for all the things you said, we work hard. Every business owner that's listening to this podcast, we work hard. And to know that somebody else can make a decision and there's other resources, and that you have the financial compensation for all those late nights, right? The times away from your, I think you have a son, right? Your son's time, the times where you had to work during vacation.
Yeah.
It's inspiring to hear this story. So often, we talk about how are we going to get out of this mess? How are we going to fix something? How are we going to create something? So it's lovely to hear that you did so well, and congratulations.
Oh, thank
Amen.
you.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I really, 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 I couldn't be happier. I will use the word, Lauren. I mean, I really couldn't. I am so grateful. I can't even describe it. So grateful. And I'm even so grateful for this job, a chance to be around some just really smart people and learn how to operate and see what life is like, and on this side of the fence. I needed it. I needed something new. I needed something fresh. I needed a change personally, selfishly. And I think the business needed it. The business is going to be so much better. And I can't wait to watch and see that happen and be part of it.
Well, you earned it.
Thank you.
I want to talk about something else, a very different situation, but also dramatic in a very different way. Jennifer, you've had a lot going on. Tell us what happened to you.
2 weeks ago, I was in the house when lightning struck my house and my house was on fire. And basically it's standing, but everything inside of it burnt to the ground. So unfortunately, couches, paintings, all of that I don't really care about. But I have 2 kids. Every Christmas decoration, every Mother's Day gift, every painting they did with their hands, every Thanksgiving little turkey, all of that is gone.
But everybody's okay, right?
Everybody's okay. I got out my smoke detectors. I did
You were the only one there?
I was the only one there. The smoke detectors went off as I searched through the house. Here's me thinking it's a problem to solve. I thought the power went out. So I'm looking to see how to turn off the smoke detectors until I smelled the smoke. And I thought, oh no. And then I ran out of the house and I called 911. And the very odd part of this is as the firemen came, my daughter is in the fire academy right now, and she volunteers at the local fire department. And who came but all of her friends? And so they were there battling the blazes, the flames coming out of my house. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I do not want any of my daughter's friends to get hurt on this, right? For those who don't know, something like 75% of the fire departments in this country are volunteers. So just remember that next time you call 911, they're not career firemen.
Wow.
And the hard part was, as business owners, 5 days later, I had an annual staff retreat. I had 30 people flying into Baltimore. And friends of mine have said, cancel it. Well, as CEO, you can't cancel something like that, right? So I had to deal with the aftermath of trying to, I had jeans and flip-flops as I ran out of the house with the smoke. That's all I had left in my name. And in 5 more days, I had to put together, the Stafford Retreat was mostly put together, but the buck stops with you as a CEO. And so I had to come to the place and come to the hotel and come and talk, present my financials to the team, the CEO type stuff, inspire them to talk about the future and give them vision and hope. So in between talking to insurance adjusters, talking to my daughter, talking to my son, trying to buy clothes, trying to, get anything I could in the meantime, it's been a rough couple weeks.
Where are you staying?
We are staying at friend's house right now. And we have a long-term rental coming up in the next few weeks. So it's, the interesting part too, from a business side is if you're a remote company like we are, what your business insurance will cover versus what your home insurance will cover and where they cross over and where they don't. I'm sort of learning some of that, just trying to figure out, navigate that path. I'm taking a lot of time off and my leadership has been really stepping up. And people in the events industry and my clients have really been unbelievable to me, sending me notes, they sent me Uber Eats gift cards. I mean, just great support from my community.
Have you learned anything through this process that you wished you'd known before all this happened?
I don't know, Lauren. I think I'm still in the midst of this chaos.
Sure.
I don't think yet. I think ask me in like 6 months.
I will.
The one thing is if you're a business owner, you have a couple pillars of equity for your retirement. 1, hopefully you have some sort of 401k plan. 2, your house. And 3, your business. Well, when one of those houses goes up in flames, you start to really think about your retirement, right? And how much equity is in the business, because I'm hoping my insurance pays for everything, but who knows, right? And so you really have to, your business, you put your life's work into this and you really hope that you'll eventually get the payout, right? And because the same thing with my house was nearly paid off. And we're so close to having it paid off in just a couple years. And now it's in flame, it's smoking timbers. So it's a hard thing to think about. Your financial security sometimes can go up.
All right. Well, my thanks to Mel Gravely, Jennifer Kerhin, and Laura Zander. As always, appreciate you guys sharing your stories. One thing before you go. Everything we do at 21 Hats is created by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs to help us all learn together. If you get something out of listening to these podcast episodes, consider joining the conversation. You can do that by joining the 21 Hats Sounding Board, a Slack channel where you can tap the wisdom of a very smart crowd, or by becoming a founding member and joining our monthly Zoom forum, where you can be part of conversations much like the ones we have on the podcast. You can sign up for both by subscribing to the Morning Report. If you have any questions, you can email me at lauren@21hats.com. And if you get something out of this podcast or out of the Morning Report, please tell a friend, tell an enemy, tell every business owner you know. Your word of mouth, owner to owner, will always be the most effective way to build this community for all of us. Thank you. It means a lot. This episode was produced by another entrepreneur, Jess Stuberon, founder of Blank Word Productions. Thanks for listening, everyone.